So, for the questions that you wrote down when we started brainstorming, it was multiple religions being true, something instead of nothing, and how do we know existence is God? So you can probably start with those stuff. I just wrote down truth versus action, all of the consciousness theories, metaphysics, what ought to be done,
Yeah.
and then problems with modern conversation. Yeah.
All
So
right,
we can
let's
start with
yeah, we could start with any of these. I think I don't know why is there something instead of nothing?
yeah, that's probably the hardest question anyone will ever answer. And it's on a deep level, like it's not just why did the Big Bang happen, it's like why did existence even need to happen in the first place? It could just be blank nothingness for all of time.
Yeah.
And I think it's really impossible to answer this question because there could have been nothing. It's the fact that now we do have something, what do we do with it?
Yeah. Because even, because there is that, there's either nothing or there's something. And kind of like you just said, now that we have something, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it definitely says something about reality because we have reality now. And why is there something instead of there being nothing? But I think something that I think we'll find with a lot of these answers is that they're not, it's not like an XYZ kind of answer. It's just like the answer is.
Exactly,
we can't, you can't specifically point out the answer, but it's going to be just like a being that is the answer that you just have to be like, all right.
Yeah, we have what we have, and now let's see what we can do from here. So now let's go on to let's go on to theories of consciousness. Now that we know that we perceive, we started with Descartes, like I think therefore I am, and if we ignore all those problems with that, we just know that now there is consciousness and there has to be something. So then we can go, where do we place consciousness? There's many theories. There's panpsychism, which places consciousness at the bottom. Consciousness is just a property of the universe, and us being built out of it just creates the consciousness in us. A rock is conscious, but only conscious in the way that it allows it to act as a rock, in the same way that we are conscious. And it kind of works well with evolution. Like evolution causes us to act in the way that we are, but we're still conscious. And then there's idealism and sort of these religious frameworks that consciousness is at the very top. Like we start with consciousness and the world itself is a manifestation of ourselves. Like we are the most important thing in this universe and everything flows from us. And then there's some middle ground, like non-dualism, which means there should never be a boundary in the first place. Or naturalism, where it just says maybe there is no consciousness, or maybe consciousness is just explained by physical processes in the universe. So where do you stand in all of this?
I think, to me, consciousness is the biggest mystery in the universe because it's like, I think everything is the whole universe is the mystery, but consciousness being the perceiver and the observer, science can't explain consciousness, and it can talk about how it may work, how it may function, but consciousness is such an interesting thing. It's awareness, and I can't really put my my thumb on it or whatever, but it's like the awareness of your surroundings is it is reality. I'm having a hard time explaining it, but I do think consciousness is really, I think it's insane. It's just really out of the blue because you look at the rest of the universe and you don't see a whole lot of consciousness as we see it on Earth, and this is a whole nother debate, but some people think that animals don't have consciousness. I think that animals do have consciousness, maybe to a certain extent, maybe not in the same, full extent that we do. But you know. But anyways, I still think it's really interesting to see that we have consciousness on this planet, yet we go to so many, we look at the whole solar system so far as we know, and there's no life.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a similar question to why there's something instead of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we look at the scientific, like, possible explanations or theories, they all have to do with, like, internal physical mechanisms in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, even if you were to say that those mechanisms do explain for consciousness, it still doesn't get you to the jumping point of, like, this awareness, this actual experience that is consciousness. Mm-hmm. Like, even if those physical things were happening, I don't think they could fully ever explain what consciousness is.
Yeah.
Which is why I think we need to step out of physics and go to metaphysics.
Mm.
Like, we need to get theories of what existence is, even if we don't really know or understand how to get there.
Can you explain some metaphysics to me, just because I'm not very familiar?
Metaphysics is just like physics. How we do things is we look at measurements and we see, we formulate theories. Metaphysics is a step beyond that. It's like, what is the universe, and, like, what is the nature of the universe? What is the physical? It's not even what is the physical properties of the universe, but what caused the physical properties. It's the foundation of what leads us to observing physics.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's like philosophical physics in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So the next question, I think, would be, how do we get from what is metaphysics to metaethics? How do we make the jump from what is the truth to what is ought to be done?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think so many times people think that science and, religion or spirituality or whatever, ethics, they contradict a lot of the times. And I think that at face value, it may be hard to see how they can relate, but I think that they definitely work together. I think one of the most, something that's very apparent to me is, like, if we're relating physics with ethics, the way that Taoism talks about this a little bit. It's the way. It's like the way that things go. And I think that can apply to both physics and ethics, because it's like, the way that water moves in physical terms, like there's a science to that, but there's also, a philosophy to water, because it's graceful, it gives, it provides all the trees and all the grass with nutrients. And so, yeah, I do think that those have an overlap. Where do you see that overlap, or if at all?
Yeah, I see sort of this dichotomy. When it comes to the modern world, we get too hung up on what is true. Like, every time we see, is there God? Is there no God? Is this what's happening? Is this what's not happening? Yeah. We get too focused on those questions, and we start to forget to ask the questions like, even if this is true or this is true, anyway, what should I do?
Yeah.
And I feel like some people think you have to have the prior explanation of what is before you can start doing something. But in a world with, like, everything is so different, like so many theories of existence, if you keep thinking about the truth, you'll never actually get anything done. And I think here's where Hindu philosophies, non-dualism, Buddhism, those really shine, because there's so many interpretations. Even in Hinduism alone, there's like thousands of ways of doing things, thousands of truths. Yeah. But they always tell you to do something. Step one is meditation. You have to figure out the awareness of the world. You have to take a breath, slow down, and do something. Yeah. So it's never about what is true. It's about what should be done. Yeah. And we can also apply this to Abrahamic religions. Like, what would be, in terms of your experience, what do people tell you to do rather than what is truth?
I think, well, interestingly enough, I think with Abrahamic religions nowadays, a lot of it does get stuck on that, what is true, what is not true. Sometimes I'll be on social media and I'll see just like Christian apologists just arguing over, like, if God is real. But dude, there's homeless people in the streets, we got kids to feed, all this, we have a lot of other important, problems to solve, whether than God is real or not. Because if God is real or not, now what?
Yeah,
like, exactly. Yeah, that's literally exactly what you were saying. And so I think that with a lot of Abrahamic religions, it is a little different because it's very based in truth. But personally, I think what Jesus came to reveal, this sort of relates to like, can multiple religions be true? What I believe Jesus came to reveal is, it's literally, I can't think of the word. It goes along the same lines as Hinduism and Buddhism, though it may not look the exact same, though it may not have like a lot of the same images or stuff, you know, whether it be Zen or meditation or consciousness, love, like all of these things are all like common. And I think that's where they overlap for sure.
Yeah, because Jesus doesn't tell you he doesn't only tell you to accept the truth, right? Mm-hmm. He also tells you that there's something you should practice. Like,
yeah.
What is something that you should practice when you think of God? What do you practice?
I think one thing that I love practicing is stillness. Or just, you know, I also call it the art of noticing, because oftentimes we're so caught up in trying to get to the next thing where we just skip over everything. But you know, a really interesting thing is that God, or whatever this thing is in the nothingness. Like, God is in the empty space, and then you find yourself in this like psychedelic dimension of just sitting here and like realizing the mystery of like what is right now. And so I think really, you know, like we're both saying, it has to come with practice, because, you know, this also relates to that, like, that question you had about a conversation, how like modern conversations, I can't remember what it was, but like, a lot of modern conversations can get so distracted on right and wrong, and it's like, well, now what?
Exactly, yeah.
So
I feel like almost everyone in the world has like this common goal, like they want to help people. They have this abstract idea of doing good, but they get too stuck up on the things they disagree about.
Yeah. I think like one of the biggest dividers that I see in society nowadays is religion, because, you know, it's Islam versus Christianity, Judaism versus Christianity. I mean, Buddhism and Hinduism really don't have a whole lot of ops, because they're pretty peaceful. But it's mainly the Abrahamic religions that like butt heads the most. But what's really interesting, and that I was thinking about the other day, is the word religion means to bind together. It means to come together, and which I think definitely helps me get a better understanding of what true religion is, because, you know, true religion will stick to the definition. So true religion, you know, there's that question that says like, can multiple religions be true? I think yes and no. The reason I say yes is because there are multiple religions that talk about the same thing from different perspectives. You know, if Jesus talked about love, if Buddha talked about Zen, you know, all these people, those are my two main examples that I go to often. But so I would say like, yes, like Buddhism can have truth, and Christianity may also have truth. But I would also say there's only one true religion, you know, one true way to bind together, and that's love. But the reason that so many religions are true is because they all talk about love from different perspectives. You know, like, I mean, even some of the art in like Islamic culture is mind blowing. And I mean, that's a testament of love and beauty, just as much as Zen meditation is a testament of love and beauty. And so I think, yeah, like it is this overlapping, you know, fractal pattern of like, it's more than one answer to, it's not like black and white, like yes or no. I think it's like both.
So. Yeah, I completely agree. And even on that point, it's like testament to human nature, that all of these religions, they all originate from different places and talk about the same thing.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's some goal that they're trying to achieve, even some higher power, or maybe even the human nature in and of itself.
Yeah.
And even on the question of division, like religion and culture and the clash that it has is not necessarily a problem, but it does create more conflict than need be. Like, instead of it being the coming together, the religion, as you said, it becomes, we're this kind of people and you're this kind of people.
Yeah.
And we can't,
and
we're
therefore
different. We can never. But it seems contradictory when the things they talk about are almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like even in Hinduism and Islam, like there's so much clash because they're just different kinds of people from two different places, from like Pakistan and India. There's Hindus and Muslims in both countries.
Yeah.
There's people who live the exact same way in both countries.
Yeah.
It's just senseless conflict for no real purpose.
Yeah. Which and that's what I would say is like specifically the individual like hate towards one another. I would say that it is like false religion, because that's not binding together. But like what binds us together, I would say, is true religion. But yeah, I think that's something that I've thought about, because you know I look at cultures all around the world, and cultures are beautiful. Like they all have their own flavors and their own colors and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, once religion starts to mix into that, or I've been trying to think of a better word for it, because now that we know that religion means to bind together, you know, then what's happening when these people are like, you know, but then what are they fighting over? I guess it would still be religion, but I guess not in the definition that we're using it as, because that's like their understanding of a religion, like their spiritual beliefs and their like dogma and their all that stuff that comes into clash. But yeah, I think it's why do you think that people get so like caught up in that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if I can fully relate. I feel like I've always been raised in like already a mixed like I've seen every perspective almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't put myself in the mind of someone who has been raised. Maybe it's what their parents have taught them, that because someone else's way of life is just so backwards that they are inherently evil. And that's why they can never be like, only you can achieve the idealized version of what you want society to be. I feel like that might be what's going through their heads. What do you think?
I think, well, having been like more of like a dogmatic Christian for a little while, like I was very firm in my belief, and I came at it, you know, I grew up agnostic pretty much. Like my parents weren't religious at all. I mean, we went to church for a week and that didn't work out. So
okay.
But I mean, later in my life, I did have an experience that I would later connect to Jesus, and that, you know, like that I would say pretty much saved my life, because it took me off the path of death that I was on, of like drugs and whatnot. But that's another story. But so I had a beautiful connection to something, and as I searched for more of that connection, I found myself in the modern day evangelical church, which is very, I'll use the, you know, apologist again, just because it's very defensive. The way that people are raised in the evangelical church is to defend Christianity.
Right.
But if you're putting your thorns out towards others, you can't receive anything.
Yeah.
You're saying, I'm right, you're wrong, you're going to hell, I'm going to heaven. That's division. And so I think the reason that this happens a lot is because it's like the same reason why a lot of kids stay in the same religion that their parents were in. That's how they were raised. They have mainly, they have like childhood connections to that thing. So it brings back some sort of good feeling. And so they feel like that they have to defend that. Like when I had my experience with Jesus, that was like my good experience. But then when I started believing that I had to defend this, I had something that I loved with something that I just, you know, inherited from modern religion. And that caused me to be more hateful or more defensive towards other people, when that's not what it was about. So I think, you know, from my experience, I think that situation may come from like a mix of, you know, just a whole mix of emotions. But
right.
Yeah.
So I suppose the thing that they have to find is perspective, because we just, like, what the experience you had, it gave you something to love, right?
Yeah.
It was like a personal experience that changed you, that transformed you.
Exactly.
And I don't know, many people who do experience this don't realize that their experience is not the only way that could happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sure many other people have had transformative experiences that are completely different.
Yeah.
But people just fail to grasp that the meaning that they have in their own the meaning that other people find in their experiences does not diminish one's own.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think so commonly we forget that we are a result of our environment, especially when we were raised. When we're an adult, it's easier to kind of distance yourself from that, but you'll always be a product of your environment in the sense that, like, Hitler, for example, he had a very depressing life growing up. And I think that is what inevitably led to a lot of his harsh decisions, because he thought he was taught that life was devoid of meaning. There was no love in life, there was no goodness in life. And so that's probably what led him to do a lot of horrible things. No excuse for that. That's a horrible thing to do, but it goes to show why some people may do things. Or like, yeah, there's just so many like circumstances that go into somebody's life. Something funny that I find at churches is that, I don't know, there can be a random small church with like 50 people in it. Actually, I'll just say there's a mega church in Texas, right? They think that they are the right religion, and they think that they're all going to heaven, but they all have no idea that the reason that they're at where they're at is a result of their surroundings. It's a result of, the colonization. It's a result of the Mexican-American War. There's all these factors that play in to get them right there that led them to that church. And then when they're in that spot, they believe that they're right. They believe that this is the right religion, but it's this one church in Texas. What about all the churches in Europe? What about, the churches in Greece or in, just in the Middle East, like those, or even in Ethiopia, like those are the OG churches. And so I think so many times, like a lot of that division comes from not being able to recognize that life changes, and not being able to recognize how you were impacted by your childhood. That's a big conversation right there, but yeah, I do think that that's a big reason why a lot of those things happen.
Yeah, it's a failure to think about, to appreciate the level of thought, that the level of actions that brought you to there. Like, when you think, you don't have awareness of your own thought. Like, when I'm thinking this, I can't control my next thought.
Yeah.
And I can't control what factors led me to thinking my next thought.
Exactly.
So in a way, it feels like the human brain is working against itself to forget that there are things that led you to this point. Yeah. And again, there's a conversation there to be had about free will. But also, there's also the question of how do we solve this? Like you were talking about Hitler, how could we have fixed that? What can we have done to stop this sort of division from taking place in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I mean, first of all, I'll say that I have no idea. But I do think that it does come with that religion to bind together in love. And a lot of it, I think, is I was talking to my friend the other day, Ben, I don't know if you know him, but he said something about how, he was saying a lot of really wise things, but he ended up saying that, Cole, I can tell you all of these things, but you won't be able to figure it out until you find it, like until you realize it, until you experience it. And I think that is something that has to happen for everybody, is that individual experience. Partially, this is a side note, which is this is why I think that organized religion, or like, modern day religion that takes profit of any sort, I think that's why that is so captivating, or it like imprisons people, because it tells people that if you leave us, if you leave the church, you're going to hell. If you stop following our set of rules, you're going to hell. When what we're seeing is people are finding their awakening is coming from within, not without. It's not like I go to somewhere and find my awakening. I am my awakening. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that it is going to have to be a process. I would almost refer to it as an apocalypse, just because of the specific etymology of that word. It means to reveal, but which is interesting because we don't see that word anything like it originally meant. But like I think it's happening in the world right now. I can't like give a timeline on it, but I think we're all waking up in some sort of sense to the reality. Like it's kind of like an exponential kind of growth or like a compounding where it goes like it'll all happen super fast. I don't know, just a thought. But I do think that in order for things to change in society, we have to realize the potential within us, and it's kind of like that ego death in a sort of sense. Like we realize that it's not all about us, and that we can make a change and whatnot. So
yeah, and on that point, I think there's like a battle going on between the sort of echo chamber, like this is the way kind of way of thinking, versus the exponential growth that you said. Like when you go online, there's going to be, it's not really an echo chamber online. It's a little different because not only do you see the content that the algorithm wants you to see, but you also see the bad of the content that the algorithm doesn't want you to see.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to tell you that this is the idea, but it's also going to tell you that everyone on this other side is terrible.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a double effect of trying to push you back down into the ground.
Yeah.
Just, this is the only way you'll ever find happiness, find purpose. And that's kind of the opposite of what it is. Both sides will have merit. Both sides will have the binding, the same, almost the same ideas, like you said, religion. So that's kind of the problems with modern conversation. And from there, it's also it being a personal experience.
Yeah.
I was going to say something there, like, about the future, like, almost already 40% of Christians are becoming universal salvation. And that's a little different from universal reconciliation, I'm aware, but we can talk about that. But like, people are moving away from the idea of consequences, like, stay here, if you leave us, then you'll go to hell. That idea is almost phasing out.
Yeah.
And even against a system that's trying to keep us in this sort of idea. So yeah, about the future, I'm very hopeful that people will in fact move to like more togetherness systems of belief.
For sure. And I think that that's embraced in differences. Like it's kind of, it's going to be uncomfortable at some point for a lot of people, just because, there's going to one day have to be someone who believes that Jesus is the only way, to believing that, well, I don't know if Buddha said he's the way, but I don't think he
Not
did.
necessarily.
Yeah, but like somebody not thinking that Jesus is the way, they're going to have to reconcile themselves to each other. And that may be uncomfortable at first, but if they realize it's in love, and they realize they're both looking up to love, it's like these two people looking up to love, they're going to come right together because they're looking at the common denominator.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's really interesting what's happening in the world right now. Because I mean, it almost feels like a joke, especially America right now, with the government being so obviously corrupt, yet still so many people following that idea.
Exactly.
I mean, in truth, I don't know how many people are supporting the government right now, because social media has definitely tainted all of our minds in some sort of way or another, whether it be the news or Instagram or whatnot. But yeah, I definitely do hope that we're coming towards a period of binding together. Yeah, and I think a lot of that I don't know exactly how to say this. A lot of that is, a lot of that binding together is going to come by will and just like, oh, now I want to do this.
Exactly.
But I feel like at some point it may get to like, okay, now we have to do this. We can't just we can't just still hate each other and live, like if we're actually going to want to live on earth and support each other and exist, we're going to have to make a change.
Yeah. And also on the point of pulling people out of those situations, like you can't do it with an argument. You can't just tell them that what you're doing is wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is not correct. That's impossible because people are just stuck there. They think they're right. They think they're above everyone else. Not only that, but they think they're sort of like, think that you're not correct. You're being crazy.
Yeah.
So it's only possible in like personal ways. They have to find their own personal experience, as you said.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a problem in politics, almost the same way. Like so much division, so much we're just the correct way, no one else is correct. And even there, it like creates, like, we have to really think about what we care about. Like in religion, everyone cares about finding their purpose, finding love, finding meaning. Yeah. Everyone in politics also cares about a thing. They care about preserving good, making sure people aren't suffering, making sure people are living well. There's these basic things that we care about, and as long as we care about those basic things, I think everyone can come together.
Yeah. I think, though it seems complicated, I think the answer is probably much more easy than we may realize, just because it is just coming together based on our commonalities in our differences. But
Another thing about the things that we care about, some people they moved from the things that they care about to certain ideas. And then they've forgotten what they've actually cared about in the first place. They've focused on themselves into being a part of a group, into having an identity that they forgot that what they were trying to achieve in the first place. So a way to reconnect people with this sort of togetherness is to remind them, like, what did they care about? Remind them in personal ways.
Yeah. That's really interesting because I certainly experienced that in my time in, very, I'll just say evangelical Christianity. It did get to a point where I was like starving myself of joy just because I didn't think that I was meant to have joy. I thought that life was pain and, life had to suck and you always have to fast and you always have to starve your flesh and it's all this like Debbie Downer stuff.
Right.
And I got so deep into this group and I got so depressed because I was like, well, I'm like learning all about the truth, but this truth is just making my life more sucky. And then I eventually fell back into my old ways. And then, I'm still being brought out of that. But I think the huge turning point for me was it was like the realization of universal salvation, universal reconciliation, that kind of thing, like where everybody is included into that eternal life, that eternal beauty, whatever it is, and everybody's included in the love. And I think that was the big turning point for me where I was like, oh, it is about being happy. Maybe that's not like the center point, like it's not it's not like happy, but it's like, well, if you're biologically made to be happy, you shouldn't feel bad about being happy. A lot of stuff like that. So yeah, I would say like definitely in my time in organized religion or like in that evangelical religion, it got to a point where I was just like, it became so much about truth and the group and come to church that I just forgot what I cared about. And
right.
So yeah.
So let's move to that topic. What is universal reconciliation? How does it differ from universal salvation? And what is the death of hell that happens? What do you think of this?
I think the best way that I could describe it is it's like being born again in a sense, because Jesus does mention being born again somewhere in the Bible, but it's like John 3 or something. But the idea that I had, there's this guy who, I mean, you may have seen it online. It's, there's two twins in a womb and one is talking to the other, and, they're having a conversation. And one says, one of them says like, do you believe in mother? And the other one's like, no, I don't believe in mother. I can't see her. I can't hear her, whatever. And the other one's like, actually, if you sit for a little second in silence, you can hear her heartbeat. Something like that. And like, it's a really good story. And then the thing that hit me about it, because I think that story is very real, just because it's like, it can apply to us right now. But I think the beautiful thing that struck me about that story is they will both be born, whether one believed or not, whether one believed in mom or not. Like, they'll both be born, and then they will believe in mom because they were born. Right. Because it's not, belief is not supposed to be this like transactional thing where it's like, you give me your belief, I'll give you some eternal life. It's like eternal life comes from belief, but belief comes from eternal life in a sense. It's like, it's kind of like a yin and yang in a sense. Like, one can't exist without the other. But yeah. So I would say I wouldn't say there's a huge difference in universal reconciliation between universal salvation. I personally use the term universal reconciliation because I think that modern Christianity is so focused on the afterlife. Well, am I going to heaven or am I going to hell? And they spend all their days toiling over this result that they don't even really know. Like, I mean, sure, I can want to go to heaven when I die. What even is heaven? Do I even know if there's a heaven? These people put all of their trust in that, and that so many people are focused on what happens after death, like the salvation or not, that they forget that we're in life right now. Like, we're alive. God is the moment. And so I would say, I like the term universal reconciliation because it focuses more on that relationship, just because it's like, being reconciled to your mom or your dad, like when you left them or something, or when you said, Mom, I hate you, or something like that. That used to happen to me a lot. Like, I would be like, Mom, I don't know. But then being reconciled is like coming back to my mom and like realizing that I love her, something like that.
Right.
Do you have anything?
I think I really like your point about the difference between, or why you prefer reconciliation over salvation. Mm-hmm. One point I have is that people, like, about the transactional thing, people tend to think that because you have transgressed against an infinite being, you deserve infinite punishment.
Yeah.
That seems almost the opposite. Like, the relationship is supposed to be like a parent and a child. Mm-hmm. Like, you are the child and there's this higher power that is all loving and cares about you. Mm-hmm. If you were if you got hit by your own child, maybe your child hurt you in some way, mm-hmm. then it wouldn't really matter to you. You still love them. Yeah. Yeah, you're still gonna care for them. You wouldn't allow them to live away from you. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't just let them, because that's what the idea is. Because you freely choose not to be with God, then you go to a place where there is no God, and that is supposed to be inherent suffering. Mm-hmm. That idea just seems completely wrong when you think about. Yeah. When you think about it, yeah.
It seems more like a sales scheme in a sense. Exactly. Like it, because I mean, I'm absolutely opposed to eternal torment, eternal hell, just because it's so morally reprehensible. But the perspective that I did see out for a little while was annihilationism, which was like, if you choose to live your life separate from God, you'll just die. Like there's no torture, there's no suffering, you just die. And I still think that seemed better because it wasn't like torturous, but it still seemed like there was something missing, like in this whole thing of salvation and love. Like, people give so much, there's so many Christians that give lip service to God is all powerful, God is all good, but he can't save you. Like, what? Like, that doesn't, that's a contradiction. And so, yeah, I do think like what happens in the afterlife, it is unknown, but I can't remember who said this. It was like Plato or Aristotle or someone like that. Might have been Plato, but he was like, or I think it was Aristotle. I actually have no idea, or it was Socrates. I don't know.
One of them.
Yeah, one of them. But he was on trial or something, and he was talking about like, if I die, it'll be good either way. If there's nothing, I go into peace and I just absolve into nothingness. Or if I live, it'll be good because it's life. He pretty much said like, if I die, there's nothing bad that can really happen. And I think that, you know, if you know about that example, it'll make like a lot more sense. But I guess what I'm really trying to say is like, we don't know about the afterlife, but we can really just assume that it's not. I mean, why would it be bad?
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
I just don't see a reason for that, because there is the possibility that it could be bad, but like, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, and the truth is we have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it shouldn't be something we should fear.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to change stuff in our life that just to affect something that we have no idea about.
Mm-hmm.
And we could also talk about like the other possibilities. Like in Buddhism and Hinduism, it's the idea that you're supposed to want to have oblivion. You're supposed to want to return to the energy of the universe.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to want to keep going here.
Yeah.
This life is just a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that's what Abrahamic religions were trying to get at. Like,
mm-hmm.
this life, you should improve this life as much as you want because you don't know what will happen after.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the lines, it got lost. The meaning got lost.
Yeah, I would agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
Me too, yeah. I was thinking.
Yeah, go ahead.
If the idea of how, like, it is supposed to be, if it was like annihilationism, like you just end there,
mm-hmm.
I was thinking, what is the point of that? Like, the point is you have been created by a God. You have been given a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to return? Do you want to stay? Or do you want to move away from God?
Mm-hmm.
Is it really a choice though? Because you're just going through life. How are you supposed to know how to make this choice?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually a great point, and that really ties to free will, which we could touch on in a sec. But yeah, I do think that, like, you know, one of my favorite, the whole reason that I really got brought to this stance of universal reconciliation in the first place was first of all because of personal experience, but second of all because I was reading the church fathers. I started reading what, you know, the people at the beginning, like right after Jesus, I started reading what they were saying instead of people 100 years before me were saying. Because so much, I mean, this is one of the key points of my theology is, so in the medieval times, so much changed, you know, because when Christianity entered the Roman Empire, you know, Christianity, or like Jesus was not a rich man, like he was homeless. And that's not, Jesus didn't come to start a religion. He came to awaken something within us, but that's not something you put in a government. And that's not something you really like the government is within us in a sense. It's not like some external thing. It's not like, you know, whole different side of it. But it's, you know, throughout the medieval times, Christianity changed a whole lot. And so I went back to the church fathers, and one of my favorite church fathers, St. Athanasius, said that if God were to let his children go into eternal torment for forever, or for them just to die, it would have been better for him not to make them in the first place.
Right.
And so, I mean, that really, first of all, makes it clear to me that Athanasius is pointing to God having a purpose and continuing that purpose, which I think really just means salvation or resurrection or whatever that is. But yeah, I think that it just goes to show, like, God is not going to create something just to let it die.
Right.
Because whatever this God is, this mystical divine being, created the universe. And the universe it doesn't just, you know, I would like to believe that it doesn't just end, but it just keeps on going in some sort of fashion that we may not be able to realize. In the sense that the Big Bang, a lot of people theorize that the Big Bang was just it's like the beginning, but it was the end of another universe in a sense. Like it's like a recycling or a regeneration. You know, there's definitely a lot of theories, but I would say that when you start involving like God into this, like why, then you start realizing, oh, well, now I don't have to be afraid of anything because I was made for a purpose. Now I can live for a purpose and trust in the continuation of my purpose. Like,
Yeah, like ties back to the question: why is there something instead of nothing? There is something, and therefore there is some kind of plan. There is some meaning, and you will eventually find that meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really just goes by the unfolding of time. But I would love to talk about free will.
Yeah.
Do you want to start
just get to that? Or
yeah,
I think a better order would be, let's talk about the other side, the anti-God side, the naturalism side first.
Yeah. All right.
So when we think of naturalism, it's this sort of brute logic way of thinking about the universe. Like, we are here, it doesn't matter, like almost apathetic to meaning in a sense. It's just purely focused on truth. We have been put in this universe by some kind of physics. The Big Bang just started, and evolution, and now we're here.
Yeah.
And now this is just the way things are. We are the atoms, we are moving.
We go to school because that's just what we do. That's how we go to make money.
Yeah, and we just go through the motions of life. So from there, what is the meaning that you can find from naturalism?
That's a really good point. And I think that's where things start to go off the edge, because, you can look at a painting, but without understanding the mind of the painter, you can almost get lost. I mean, that's a very specific situation, but I think there is something, obviously, and when you kind of think when you believe that this something is pointless or it doesn't mean anything, that shapes exactly how you experience life. These emotions that you may have naturally, like joy or love or whatever, they go away because you don't think that it means anything. And so I think that I do agree with a lot of that philosophy, in the sense that we may not be as important as we think we are, in the sense that it's not all about us. But I still do think that we are important to some extent. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a few ways to look at naturalism. There's nihilism. You can just forget about meaning. You can just live life as if there is no inherent purpose. And some people can do that. Some people can just go through the motions. Then you can have absurdism, which sounds like it sounds. Like, it's all absurd, who cares? But then you can also find existentialism. The idea that each individual is responsible for finding their own task, their own belief. And even in religion, that is existentialism, because people they have found this religion, they have found the meaning in the religion. But I feel like that is a really difficult task. What is meaning? How are you supposed to find meaning? These questions are very difficult for a person who's just born, just trying to survive, trying to make it through life. How are they supposed to find meaning?
Yeah, because if there is no meaning, you can't find meaning, because there is no meaning. So I definitely think I would agree with naturalism in the sense that it's based in truth. It's based in what we can see, because I think that even though what we can see can deceive us at times, I think that's going to be more real than just blindly believing in eternal torment. I think there are definitely many atheists that are probably more happy than people who believe in eternal torment, because those people are living in torture every day, scared whether they don't know what's going to happen after they die. While atheists have peace because naturalists have peace because they don't really care. It's just we're here now.
And I feel like they've found their own meaning in being apathetic to meaning. They've realized that they've accepted this is just the way the universe is, and I'll just keep going, and I'll be happy, I'll be sad, and I'll just make it through life. That in and of itself is meaning, and it falls under existentialism. So the people that are caught, the people that are trapped in this idea, who are those people? Why do they lack meaning? Why do they suffer because they lack meaning?
That's a good question. I was also actually I was nihilist for a little while, for a month or something, just because it was because I was really depressed in life, and I really didn't think I kind of just gave up. I was literally walking through the motions every day. I just didn't really care about anything. And I got to that place by a bunch of unfortunate events that all happened at the same time, pretty much within the span of a month. And so I think that the reason that I got to that place was just because of my experience. And it also certainly was because I was I was allowed to go that way in a sense, because I think that my journey through nihilism led me to my journey to meaning, because for a little while when I didn't think that there was a meaning to anything, it sucked. And I was like, oh, there has to be a meaning of sorts. I think I may have gone off topic with your question, but
no, that is on topic. And I think I'm kind of the opposite, in which there was a point in life when I thought there wasn't a meaning to anything. Like, I could just do whatever I want. I could stay at home all day.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to do anything. I was like restless. Like, it would be hard to move me to do anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like I wasn't discontent with that. So it's interesting because not only did I have no meaning, I was content in having no meaning.
Yeah.
But now that I do have some sort of passion, some meaning in life, I look back and I realize that I think that I was suffering, but I didn't think that then.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I totally agree. I mean, when I was in that period of like, no meaning in life, I was content with that because I was like, all right, I guess I'm just going to go day to day doing my stuff. And I was still sad in all of that, but I still found joy in this, in the small things, whether it be music or talking to my parents or, like scrolling on social media, even though like, scrolling on social media isn't the best joy. Like
it is something. It's something that grounds
something.
You. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a really good point.
It's still like you're interacting with the world. You're making your presence known.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the opposite of just being still. It's like being in a comfort zone. Like you're comfortable there, but once you step outside, you realize it wasn't actually that comfortable in the first place. So that's kind of awakening idea. Like you have there is something instead of nothing. You have a meaning, and once you step out of that box, you realize.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, I love the way that you said that. All right.
And now we can move on to the free will.
Free will.
Yeah. So there's many different ways to approach this. I think I'll start with the most basic way, which is that we are conscious. We can observe us. We can, in the most basic sense, we can interact with things and we can choose. Like I've chosen to pick up this object, and you have in the same time frame. But the conversation that we had led us to making a decision. It led us to picking up the object because that's the most basic, that's the most socially acceptable way to prove that you have free will.
Exactly.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
You can think, you can choose to act on thoughts, but you can't choose to have the next thought.
Exactly.
But you can choose to make habits that will lead to your next thought. It's almost like in crazy web of do you have free will or do you not?
Yeah. Because I mean we can really just zoom in on this conversation and zoom out. We're having this conversation about free will, but the reason that we're here right now is because we both made it to school today on the road, which is dangerous, which we may not have, God forbid. But and then the reason that we had cars in the first place were because our parents let us have cars. The reason that our parents were able to do that is because they have jobs. The reason they have jobs is because their parents, and then
so on and so forth.
And it goes all the way back, and it's like, well, then how much control do I have? I think we often assume that we have more control than we think that we have, because disaster is spontaneous. Disaster, it's disaster. Like it's not, you don't plan for disaster. But I think the interesting thing about free will is it's like, this does come up in Christianity a little bit, because there's this huge debate between free will and predestination.
Right.
Because the Bible does talk about both, like, it does talk about your faith and like your trust, which is interesting. I don't know how much trust is free will. We can talk about that too though. And then there's predestination, where people say you have no free will. God chooses, you either go to heaven or hell. And it's interesting because I don't agree with either of the indoctrinations. Arminianism is free will. Calvinism is predestination. I don't agree with either of those, but I think that there is both free will and predestination.
Right, yeah. I feel like we can't ever know the answer to the question, but it surely is a mix of the both.
Yeah.
Like as we were zooming out, there's like layers. It's like an onion.
Yeah.
Free will, no free will, free will, no free. Like there, we have to understand that there are things that control us, and there's things that we can control.
Yeah.
And so it almost becomes like Pascal's wager. Like, if you decide that you don't have control, then what's the point of anything? If you decide that you do have some control at least, then you can make some changes. You can change the world. You can make things better than they are.
Yeah.
So one option, you don't get to do anything. The other option, you have, there's benefit that is coming to you. So really, either one it is, you should always choose the one in which you think you have some control.
Yeah. And I would say that we do have, well, I mean, even thinking about that word free will is interesting. The best way that I like to understand will is it's like your desire or your picker. It's like what you choose to do. It's like what picks in your brain. And one of my favorite, I guess I'll call him a theologian, but he doesn't really claim to be a theologian. He just talks a lot about this stuff. His name is John Crowder, and he was talking about free will and hell, and how, you know, like your picker, the chooser that you had was affected by the flaw of the world. And so the reason that you ended up choosing wrong things, it was not as much in your control as you may think. Like right. The reason that a homeless person ended up on the street, or say like a homeless person is using heroin, the reason that they started using heroin maybe because they were abused when they were a kid, or their mom may have died in a horrible way. Like they're trying to cope with something that they can't control. And I will say, like a lot of the time it's like we don't have free will until we do realize that we have free will.
Exactly.
Like I don't, like that person, literally, they just got in that situation from this chain of events that led them to that spot, but they don't realize that they have control over it until they realize that they can make a change. And so I'm not saying it's easy, but it's like, it's really interesting to think about, like how that works.
Yeah, it's certainly not easy, but you have control over the things that there's things that control you, that you have control over, that you control, that have control over you.
Yeah.
It's the endless cycle. So
yeah.
The only way to break is to just do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I mean, I was thinking about coffee just because that's like, I had the choice to get coffee or not this morning.
Right.
I was also thinking of getting like banana bread or something, but you know, I'm trying to stay a little healthier right now. Right. So I'm like, should I get that banana bread? And in that moment, it is up to me. Like I can, you know, my stomach can be saying, oh, but I'm hungry. And my brain can be saying, oh, but you need to be healthy. But then it kind of zooms out to me like, well, now what? Like, which one are you going to choose? And so I think like that is where the control comes in, like realizing that it's up to you. Like if you want to get out, it's up to you. Oh, this is really interesting. In John 5, when Jesus like goes up to heal this man like next to a pool, I can't remember, it's like pool of Bethsaida or something like that. But the first thing he asks the man is, do you want to be healed? Which seems kind of redundant at first because it's like, well, obviously this dude is paralyzed. Like obviously he probably want to be healed. But I think that shows something to us a lot of the times. Like we may have a problem. Say it's like we overeat or something. We eat too much Cane's, for example. Like we have that problem, and oftentimes the first question that will really strike us is, do we want to stop? Like, and there's sort of that dualistic answer where it's like, I want to stop because I want to be healthy, but I don't want to stop because it tastes good. Or, you know, it kind of takes place like that, but then it becomes up to you, like, well, which, you know, your free will presents itself at the fork in the path.
Exactly. Like
at that point where it splits off, that's where free will is.
But I think even that idea like it's the fork. It kind of it's true in the sense that these are the points that in which you make the changes, and then the factors will try to keep you in that direction. But people underestimate how many forks there are.
Yeah.
Like you can start something, and then you can just stop. You can go to do something and realize that you actually can't do it, or you can fall back into your old way and immediately come back out. There's nothing stopping you. As a human, we have these sort of biases, like we're going to fit into this box, we're going to fit into this box, part of our survival mechanism. But we can realize that this actually doesn't happen at all. It's just all an illusion.
Yeah.
And then we realize that we actually have a way freer will, a much higher amount of will than we actually had in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy to think about some of this stuff, because like I feel like so many businesses you know, I don't even know if this was a quote, but I heard somebody say it. It was like, you know, if there was actually a book that told you how to be happy, then there would only be one of them.
Exactly.
But there's not. And so I think that so many businesses or like those kinds of things, they would die once we realize the power that we have within ourselves, the choice that we have, the ability that we have, because then there's no more like method on how to be happy. Like happiness is up to you. It's like you want to see the glass half full or half empty. You may have a reason for why you want to see it as either, but it's really up to you. You know, like the sky could be raining, your clothes could be wet. Well, what are you going to do about it? Yeah. Now, are you going to be happy or are you going to be sad? So
you don't even have to worry about what you're going to do about it. You can just like be there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even have to, you can just stand at the fork.
Yeah.
You can just stay there and you can just appreciate the fact that you have this decision. And what you're going to do from there, you can just worry about that later.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. I think like there's so much that I think is really being revealed about like, well, this kind of spins around consciousness, and I think this may be like the pinnacle of like my belief in a sense, but I'm sure you've heard the name Yahweh before. Like that's one of the Abrahamic gods. I think that, I don't know if Yahweh appears in Islam. I'm not totally sure.
I think appears, but
not like,
named.
Yeah,
like still Allah. But.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that Yahweh means I am, and I've always thought it's so interesting that God would introduce himself with the name I am. Like Moses is like, oh, what's your name? And he's like, I am who I am. It's not a name. I mean, according to our standards. But I think that something that's shown there is God, and whenever I say God introduces himself, I'm not really saying that God is a man. I just wanted to get that out of the way. But whenever God says, you know, when God said that I am, that relates to us. Because we also say that I am. And that's something that we have. Something that I really like to think about is think about your eyes right now. Think about your vision. You know, what you're seeing, and then you're receiving it. But if you trace it back to where it's receiving, you know, your brain is like the computer that's taking in the signals, but you really have to think about what is receiving. Like what is on the receiving end, what is comprehending, what is aware of what you're seeing. And it's like if I look right into your pupil, I won't see anything, because it's just like emptiness in a sense. Whatever. That's a whole different debate. But it's like yourself. I guess what I'm really trying to get at here is that your I am is the same as God's I am. Because this consciousness, I would say, is like we have the same consciousness, even though we may not be aware in the exact same sense. Like, you know, you're Vidit and I'm Cole. We grew up in different places. Yeah, we're still in Albuquerque. But like we still have that same consciousness because it's consciousness.
Interesting.
And so like it's just really interesting to like realizing who I am, because identity is so important. I mean, the world I think right now is having an identity crisis because we don't know who we are. We don't know if we're on this side or that side. We're so desperately trying to find out who we are. You know, we're not really doing it in the right way because, you know, we're causing a lot of bad things to happen. But I think that's probably one of the main points of my theology is that, like, you know, like the I am is, it's like this body that we have is just a vessel for the I am into this world. But
I wouldn't even say it's a vessel. Like, there's just senses that you associate with having a body, but in essence, it's really the same as maybe this table. Like, the only difference you have between your body and the table is that your body can sense things. Really just an arbitrary thing to have.
Yeah.
And the same thing with your eyes.
Yeah.
The only difference it has with the rest of your body is that it's the one that you see, which is why you perceive your consciousness as being behind your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
But really, it's not even any of that. Like, nothing material can describe what consciousness is in its essence.
Yeah, because I mean, regardless of what it is, when you start to approach something where you can't get a solid answer to it, where you're like, you know, searching your brain for an answer, I mean, I'm kind of going to cut to the chase. That's probably God.
Yeah.
Like if you're embarking, or if you're like coming close to something that you cannot find words for, that's God. I think that's like a wonderful way to think about it, just because like that, you find that in science, and you find that in religion, you find that in experience, you find that in art, in music, and all of that kind of stuff.
Right. It's not, God isn't really like this man in the sky. That's nothing compared to, like, it's an abstraction. It's a personal connection that is the world and is you.
Yeah. It just is.
Yeah.
I always like to say that God is a verb, not a noun. Because a noun is like you know, no offense to nouns, but nouns are just kind of dead things. It's just like, it's a thing, you know, but it tries to capture something. Like, I think a noun tries to capture something apart from life, because a verb is life. A verb is active. A verb is. But like a noun is not. It's like, if I say this table, like this is a table, well, I can identify this thing in this moment, but if I just simplify it to that thing, I forget its purpose, I forget all the things that it's used for, I forget where it came from, where it may go, I forget its whole time span. I forget that this table is just as much connected to Earth as we are, because it's all part of the same picture. And so I always like to think about God as a verb, because a verb it's active, it's moving, it's living, and you can't capture a verb in a noun. You can't like explain what a verb is without knowing what it is like to be, you know?
Right. In a way, the table analogy makes sense, because the table is a thing, but it's part of our journey. Like, we've come here, we've discussed, and the table is helpful. In a way, I think God is like the highest form of verb. It's the journey in the first place.
Yeah.
It is the act of going somewhere, finding meaning, and it is the meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like a really good point. Something interesting that the Bible refers to, like John 1 verse 1, is it says, like, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. A lot of people misinterpret this, and they think the Bible is the Word of God. The Bible actually never says the Bible is the Word of God. The Bible just calls itself like Scripture, or like, you know, writings or something. Right. But what the writers were trying to get at with the Word of God is, it meant that, like, Jesus was like, he was the divine logic of God, or he was the reason, or something like that. And so, like, the Word of existence is God. It's like think about what a word is. It's like it's a sound. I mean, I think we underestimate sound a lot, just because it's like we can't see it, but it means so much to us. Like
Right.
if we had no sound, everything would be really weird and like it would suck a lot more. But I like the word, it's something invisible with meaning. I mean,
Right.
the word has
Right.
meaning. And so what I think that they're trying to get at by saying the word of God is it's like the reason or like the purpose or something like that. It gets to something much deeper.
Yeah, the word is God, the meaning is God. But
God
the
is
word,
the reason, yeah.
yeah, that is the inherent like abstraction of the purpose of the journey that we have in life.
Yeah.
So it was revealed to us in the very beginning. Huh?
Yeah, and because I think that the one huge flaw that I see in religions nowadays is, I mean, I'll point to the evangelical church, what we've kind of talked about. It's that institutionalization where it's like, you know, we want you coming back, we need you coming back, you need to be coming back or else you're going to hell, or something like that. But it really ignores the personal experience, because Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's crazy to me, like the amount of like absurd cherry picking in churches, even though they accuse everybody of cherry picking. Like it says that God doesn't dwell in buildings made by man. It says that you are a temple of God. It says that the kingdom of heaven dwells within you. It says that God is I am. I mean, all of these things pointing to us as a temple, as an experience, as like the vessel, or just a being. And like I think that's kind of like the crescendo of awareness, of realization, of revelation. Revelation means to reveal. And like that's what I think is like so interesting, is that like we're approaching on that realization, that worldwide realization that we are
You might even call it reconciliation.
Yes, sir.
A universal.
Yeah, exactly. Like
This feels like Fantastic Four when I say that again.
Yeah, facts. But yeah, I think it's like we're coming to realize who we are.
Right.
And that our identity, whatever that may be, is good. I do want to add a little side note real quick just about like identity, because so many Christians are so opposed to like LGBTQ, for example, but like that is not an issue. Like it's it's really not, because so many Christians will like focus on LGBTQ, like it's bad to be lesbian or gay. I mean, and they totally miss the condemnation and the fact that they're hurting other people and like being rude to them and mean and all of that stuff. And like I think like I just wanted to touch on this real quick, because I think that often Christianity is associated with anti-LGBTQ, obviously, like we see today. But I mean, homosexuality wasn't even mentioned in the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
It is probably not at the top of God's list of things to do, right? It's not like, man, starving kids in Africa, sorry. You're gay? Oh, no. Like that doesn't make sense. And so I do want to say, like, the thing about identity is that identity is not about like, it's not about your external form, because I can appear in this way or another way. But love is really what my identity is about, making the world a better place. You know, my sexuality, as long as I'm not hurting people, is not making the world a bad place.
Exactly.
If I'm doing good, that's making the world a better place. Yeah, and that's really what it's all about.
It's part of your identity, but it's not just that. It's like the way you experience, like the way you move through your journey in life.
Yeah.
That's part of you.
Yeah.
So to say that this thing that you can't even control is like, you deserve condemnation because of that, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's like, it was probably, or is it true that it was mistranslated in the New Testament?
I don't know, actually. I would like to do some more research on it, but basing off of my personal experience right now and basing it off of logic, it's not on the priority list of problems in the world. We have much bigger problems than that.
And a quote from the Bible is neither male nor female, neither slave nor free. It's saying no matter what your identity is,
Yeah.
you still have this journey. You still have the journey to find meaning.
Yeah, it literally says that, neither slave nor free, Greek nor Jew,
Yeah.
all of these things, like, you are all one in Christ.
Exactly.
And it's just, when it's all, this is really what I love talking about, is like interpretation and stuff, because it's all really based on perspective, if you want to see the glass half full or half empty. Because when people look for verses to support their eternal hell or their condemnation or whatever, they can find them. One of the best examples is Romans 3:23 or something, which says, like, all have fallen short and all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Because that's what they use to say that everybody's a sinner. That verse ends with a comma. It also says, and are all justified by God's grace, or something like that. And so it's like, because it says that all have sinned, okay, we know that, and all are also justified and made right in God's sight. And so it's like, it literally, they use that verse so much, but they ignore the second verse. Like, it says that, everybody was bad at some point. Now everybody's chilling. Like, we're all okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're good now.
And even if we think of that God as being like a metaphoric meaning, metaphoric higher journey, that still makes sense, because even if you haven't made it to the end of your journey, even if you failed in life, even if you think you've done something wrong, you're still doing fine.
Yeah.
You're still going to go on. You're still going to do good things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, like, it's just really like that. Oh, what was I going to say about, like, interpretation? Because that was kind of like a side note, though I love that point. But, like, I mean, when I started considering, I would almost even say flirting with universal reconciliation, like, I started finding so many things to support that because I was looking for it. I think that says so much about life, just because, like, if you're looking, the perspective you're looking from, if you don't think that you have enough, you're never going to think you have enough. But if you think that you are full and fulfilled, kind of like Zen talks about, then that will actually be the fulfillment. That will actually bring you joy. It's like, it's your posture towards it. It's like your posture towards life. And so I think, like, I mean, that's like a message for anybody. Life can be what you want it to be. I mean, certainly maybe to an extent, like, you can't always have it your way. But if you want life to be good, you can make life good.
Yeah. You can take whatever parts you have and you can
you can take what you have and do what you want.
Yeah. You are here. You are something instead of nothing. And now you can do something.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions that you want to talk about?
I think all of this we can save for another time.
Bet.
But I think we made a really good discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
For sure. All right.